Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during this show. And that certificate is not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. Today's trivia theme is the 1980s. We'll see how much the audience remembers about the 1980s. To me, it seems like yesterday, but that's like, 30, 40 years ago. All right, we do have a special guest, John Jussen from iTex. And John is the owner of the iTex in Northern California, has been a barter broker since 2011, and was a customer of iTex since 1991. He owned and operated a restaurant catering business in San Jose for 27 years. And now he helps about 200 local businesses save cash and get new customers through a formal barter exchange group company called iTex. Hey, John, welcome to The Best of Investing.
All right, great to be here.
Yeah. So I have a nice little affinity for iTex because I am also a member of the barter exchange. And why don't you first let's talk about how did you get involved with barter, because you had a restaurant catering business before.
Yeah, so owned a restaurant that had been in operation since 1950. I was the second owner, and I operated the restaurant from 1982 until about 2010 when I sold the business. But after graduating from San Jose State with a degree in business and economics, I ended up purchasing the business in 1988 and started trading once I owned the business, because I was the owner.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that was about 1991, so about 3 years after I bought the business.
Okay. So why don't you explain to the audience what bartering is? I mean, we usually think of like the olden days and, thousands of years ago, where it was like, you want a piece of fruit, I want a piece of bread, a loaf of bread, and we just switch, and that's barter.
All right.
But it goes by, I know it goes beyond that. So why don't you explain to the audience how it works?
All right. So being the owner operator back in 1991, if I needed the market rate to clean my carpets in my restaurant was $500 at the time.
Okay.
So a barter deal would be, I have an owner of the carpet cleaning business. He would clean my carpets for $500. And in exchange, I would give him $500 worth of certificates to my restaurant.
Okay.
And so that was a trade that we made.
Yeah.
And we both benefited from it.
Okay. So now that's a typical barter type exchange that I was just mentioning before about, bread for fruit type of thing. So that specifically is I need your services, you need my services, and nobody else is involved. But it goes beyond that when you're dealing with a company like iTex.
Right. And because the way iTex comes in is a couple of ways. One, sometimes it's difficult to find a carpet cleaning company owner that you would want to do a broker or to do a transaction with. So if you don't have a carpet cleaning willing to accept $500 worth of certificates to your restaurant, then you can't do a trade. So
Exactly.
iTex comes in and they're able to connect you with a carpet cleaning business owner that would accept iTex dollars in exchange. So these are trade dollars. So they would be able to do a transaction, whereas before they would not be able to do it.
Okay. And I know we're going to get into it a little bit more because it's kind of basically, it's like a marketplace. It's sort of a form of currency. And I know one question that you probably get is, well, is this legal, or is this like a black market under the table against the IRS rules? And why don't you just quickly answer that question, then we'll go to break.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So iTex is a trade bank, basically. So we keep track of how many trade dollars everybody has. So in that scenario I gave you with the carpet cleaning company, the carpet cleaning owner and the restaurant owner, you can give them a line of credit to your restaurant, but you'd have to keep track of how many dollars each of them have.
Yeah. Okay. And we're going to go to a break, and I know we'll get into this more because I'll let you know what my sales pitch is, so to speak, when I'm talking to prospective other people who might benefit from barter. All right. Our first trivia question. We're talking the 1980s, and again, John, just as a reminder, don't answer the question yet. Okay.
All right.
First trivia question. This all-time best-selling coin-operated video game was inspired by a pizza with a piece missing. What video game are we talking about from the 1980s? Call 888-912-1190. The first caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Again, this all-time best-selling coin-operated video game was inspired by a pizza with a piece missing. All right, don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, John Jussen of iTex. And now, John, I'll ask the question, and now you can answer if you know the answer to this one. Okay. We're talking about the 1980s, all right? This all-time best-selling coin-operated video game was inspired by a pizza with a piece missing. What video game were we talking about?
Since I played a lot of it back then, I'm guessing Pac-Man.
That is correct. You're 1 for 1. Not bad. Not
All
bad.
right.
Okay. All right. So we have in the Zoom studio, so to speak, John Jussen of iTex, and we were talking about how trade dollars work. So here's how. Tell me if this is a good way to explain it. You know, when I'm talking to a let's say a restaurant, same sort of thing, where a restaurant says, you know, hey, we need to have our carpets cleaned. But the carpet cleaner says, well, gee, you know, I don't really go to, you know, I don't eat Chinese food or whatever it is, right? And so the benefit is what happens is I'm sorry, let me go back. The way I've explained it to people, I said, let's say an accountant needs a plumber, but a plumber doesn't need an accountant, but a plumber needs an electrician. And if all three parties belong to iTex, then they can just they can do their work and they can use the money, quote, money that's parked in the bank, and they earn their dollars, so that if I'm a carpet cleaner, I get let's say $500 worth of iTex, and I don't need it to spend it, let's say on the restaurant. I might hire an accountant who's in the system, or an electrician or a plumber.
Yeah, exactly. You might hire an accountant, or you may take that money and need it for advertising. A lot of times, small business owners don't have a budget to advertise. So now they're able to take in some iTex dollars from, let's say, that plumber, and they can bank those dollars and use it to buy advertising. And so what that does is that'll increase their cash business and increase their budget for advertising that they wouldn't have had before. So it gives them a competitive advantage against their competitors in the marketplace, because they're able to accept these trade dollars and use them for advertising that they wouldn't have been able to afford before.
Yeah. And I'll tell you a frustrating situation that I had when trying to garner more, because it kind of helps everybody. You know, the more people I can bring to iTex, the better it is for everybody, because it just means that much more business that people can have access to. So I was talking to the guy who owned a carpet business. So he didn't clean carpets, but he installed carpets, right? Typical carpet guy. And we happened to be talking, and I was explaining about barter. And I said, you know, do you ever rent, you know, I mean, do you ever need someone to clean your windows here? And he goes, well, I own the building and blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, you own the building? I go, well, that's even better. I said, you know, do you ever have any roof problems? Oh yeah, I had a roof problem. It cost me, you know, $5,000 to fix my roof a couple of months ago. And so I asked him, I said, let me ask you something. I said, because I know a little bit about the carpet business. I said, I got to think that somewhere in your back warehouse, you've got a bunch of carpet that you can't do anything with. Like nobody wants it, and you know it's just taking up space, and it's costing you money, etc. Oh yeah, I've got this, you know, these remnants and just other carpet that I can't do anything with. And I said, well then why don't you join the barter system? And I know because I've owned a building before where I needed carpet, and you know any old commercial carpet would do. I didn't need anything fancy. and I could have taken that carpet from your warehouse off your hands, and you could have gotten your roof fixed basically for free. You're just exchanging the carpet that you can't use for services that you can use. And he says, well, that sounds kind of interesting. I'll let me ask my accountant. Okay, well, I have a background in accounting also, but I said, yeah, go ahead. And he comes back to me and he says, oh no, my accountant says you're not allowed to do that. And I said, you better
So,
fire your accountant because she's stupid. I said, first of all, it's all legal because you guys give a 1099.
right. There's a 1099, and the first line on the tax form reads bartering services. So this
Yeah,
is legal. And we do have plenty of CPAs and accountants that are
yeah.
members of ITEX that would be willing to accept ITEX dollars trade because they understand, the value of
Yeah,
a new
exactly.
customer and saving some cash.
Well, I've actually, one of the things I tell people, I said, let me make it really simple. The kind of people who should not do barter are ones where they can't, they're so busy with cash business, they don't need extra business. And so they don't need to barter. Or if you're like Dell Computer or Safeway, where your cost of goods is so high and there's just a little bit of margin that, it doesn't make as much sense because that's how ITEX makes business or makes money is that they charge a fee. Otherwise, they can't stay in business. So, but I
Right.
said, when an accountant has extra time or a lawyer has extra time, it's just time. So they'll
Yeah.
fit it in.
Correct. So
Yeah.
if a business owner has excess inventory and for the service businesses it's their time,
Yeah.
then they should consider filling that void with a transaction that they would have not normally have gotten through a barter exchange.
Exactly. And then sometimes I found that it actually turns into other cash business, which is really cool. And I do want to ask you about that, where like with
All right.
dealing with a construction company, sometimes you do have to do a combination of barter and cash. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Okay,
All right.
we're talking the 1980s here. Here's our second trivia question. In 1985, which drinks company tried to launch to the world a new flavor? So this was a well-known company that had been around for a really long time, but in 1985 they tried to launch a new flavor. The audience did not, or the audience, the nobody liked it. Let's put it that way. All right, call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate, which is worth $100, or actually over $100. Stay with us. The Best of Investing will be right back. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with John Jussen of ITEX. And our second trivia question about the 1980s. Which company in 1985, which is a long-standing company, been around for a very long time, tried to launch a new flavor into the world?
So my guess would be Coca-Cola
Coke.
Classic.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, they did New Coke. And when then everybody hated it because they changed the formula. Apparently it was a 99-year-old patent that was about to run out. So they thought, well, let's just invent a new flavor, just off a little bit, and nobody seemed to like it. So we'll go back to old Coke.
All
All
right.
right. So John, one thing I wanted to mention, then I'll let you take over, is sometimes what happens. I know is let's say you want to have a make it simple, a doghouse built, and you hire a contractor who uses labor on trade, but he says, well, the problem is I've got to put the money out for all the wood and nails and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes you can have a combination where the contractor will say, look, you pay for the materials and I'll put my labor in for trade.
Yeah. So that's a good question. So the third party costs can be separated out of
Mhm.
the transaction under the marketplace rules. So if you're building a fence, the labor portion would be on trade, and since the lumber yard is not necessarily part of the exchange or Home Depot,
Yeah.
might not be a part of the group, so that could be separated out if necessary
Yeah, but
on
you're
third
still
party
saving money
costs.
though, because you don't have
Yeah.
to pay the labor part of it. Go ahead. You were off air. You were saying that you've got a story similar to the carpet guy I was talking about.
Yeah, we had a flooring company owner. He had a huge warehouse full of flooring, and he wanted to get his brand established in the area. And so one of his first deals was he provided flooring for an office for a advertising company in Santa Cruz. So they had all the newspaper advertising in Santa Cruz, and he provided all the flooring because he had excess inventory pallets in the back, and that's so he was able to generate ITEX dollars, which he used to reward his employees and reward his good customers. With products and services on the ITEX marketplace that he was able to buy. And that was just one trade that was similar to the one that you were describing.
Yeah, and that's what I again, it drives me crazy when people, well, I got to talk to my accountant, and I said, and I even said, well, let me talk to the accountant because I got to explain it to her. It sounds like she really doesn't know, as much.
Yeah, and one good thing that you mentioned was you're getting a new customer. So when I had my restaurant, I traded through ITEX with the house cleaning company. The house cleaning company would come in to my house, accept ITEX dollars, and they did that for 15 years, got to know their family. And guess what? All my neighbors, because I had a good house cleaner, got new customers from the neighbors, and they would pay cash. So they would come to my house.
Yeah, exactly.
But so ITEX is basically advertising, it's marketing and visibility for your business that you wouldn't normally have had.
Exactly. And what does it cost the companies to belong to ITEX?
So there's no fee to join through my each broker. There's about 20,000 businesses across the United States. Each area has a different broker. Right now, I'm not. There's no charge to be a member, but there's an association fee, and there's also a small transaction fee, and that's how we keep the group together. It's I believe $25 a month for association fee and 10 trade dollars, and then when you do a transaction, it's 6%. But within the association fee, ITEX, if you're going to buy advertising, gives each client $5,000 a year in matching advertising, and so that's part of the $25. You get $5,000 in matching advertising. So if you're gonna buy advertising, ITEX will pay 50% of it.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I like that. That's a good way, and then it gets the word out even more. Absolutely. Right. Let's see here. So what types of, now we've talked about a couple of companies, accountants, attorneys, restaurants, cleaners, carpet cleaners. What other kinds of companies have you seen participate?
So there's, dog groomers, business coaches, life coaches, there's auto mechanics, auto detailing, there's printing companies, there's dentists. A lot of small business owners don't have dental insurance. So we find that if a dentist is looking for new patients and they have the time available, that they can get some business right away, some new patients from the small business owners that don't have dental insurance.
Yeah, plus I've seen sometimes you can actually buy specific things. Like let's say there's a jewelry company that is, got excess inventory of necklaces or something like that.
Right.
You can actually buy real tangible things.
So the marketplace is always changing. So sometimes we have items one day and then not the next. But a few years ago, I'll tell you, exactly. But yeah, there's a ever-changing marketplace.
Yeah, and then again, the more that people refer to it, the better it is, because it helps everybody. Because it wouldn't be a very good system if there's like 3 people in the system, right?
Correct.
That just wouldn't help. All right, we're going to go to our third commercial break here, which is the trivia. Here's the trivia question. This one's a little harder. The early 1980s saw a new format launch into the market and changed the way we buy our music forever. Who is credited with inventing the compact disc player? So basically CDs, right? Who is actually who? It's like a company basically
All right.
is credited with inventing the compact disc player. All right, stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We are going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with John Jussen of iTex. Here's our third trivia question, a little harder than the other ones. In the early 1980s, we saw a new format launch at the marketplace that changed the way we would buy our music forever. Of course, now it's even changed since then. But who is credited with inventing the compact disc player?
My guess would be Sony.
Okay, very good. Philips and Sony. Yeah, very good. I like that. I guess they came out with the Walkman back then, right?
Yeah.
But that was actually the Walkman came out just before, and that was not a CD. All right.
All right.
I want to make a couple of mentions here. The Elk Cove Inn in Mendocino, beautiful place, beautiful bed and breakfast right on the water, and also talking about water, Alcatraz Tours is out in if you've never been to Alcatraz, you take the basically it's like a big ferry goes from San Francisco out to Alcatraz and back. Check it out, alcatraztours.com. Actually, I think it's cityexperience.com. You can go to either one, and elkcoveinn.com. All right, so we're in the studio here with John Jussen of iTex, which is a barter company, and let's see. Before we cut to break, I think you were getting to a specific point.
Yeah, we were talking about the iTex marketplace, that there's products and services being sold. So sometimes we have items and sometimes we don't. And one of the items we had about 3 years ago was all-inclusive trips to Alaska on Norwegian Cruise Lines.
Ah.
So my members got balcony suites, all the alcohol, everything included. And actually, my wife and I actually were able to go. And the only thing we had to pay separately were the port fees, and taxes. So that's separate because they're not part of the barter exchange.
Yeah,
right?
but and see, that's really smart for them if they have if they have a cruise ship that's not full, it's going out to sea anyway. And
exactly.
And the thing is, if I understand it correctly, they always carry so much extra food that
exactly
they're going to waste it. So it doesn't really cost them hardly anything to have you.
In the same way, let's say a hotel on the coast would have, let's say, 100 hotel rooms.
Yeah.
If they were at 80% occupancy, that means they have 20 empty rooms. If they can fill up a room or two with iTex dollars at their normal price for 3 nights, let's say it's $200 a night, that'll give them $600 to spend that they wouldn't have had on an empty room. Now they can take that $600 and promote the hotel by buying advertising for their let's say a Coastal Weddings magazine or something like that. They could promote their wedding services.
So let me ask you, like Norwegian, obviously it's a big company, everybody knows it. What do they use their iTex?
Okay, so what we do is the marketplace has different brokers with different needs. And so the person that Norwegian Cruise Lines was not part of the barter exchange, but there's people that broker deals and they get excess inventory at, let's say, 20 cents on the dollar. And then it was last minute. So we had about a month to decide if we wanted to go or not. And so it's just a marketplace of different brokers and items up for sale. Right. And so we never know what's going to come up.
Very good. Hey, by the way, tell the audience, what does iTex stand for?
That's just like Haagen-Dazs, it really doesn't stand for anything. It's just a name, right? It's but it is basically the largest barter exchange in North America with 20,000 business owners.
Yeah.
And it's considered the I would say the biggest barter exchange with the national footprint. So we have brokers all over the country, from New York to Florida to Texas, and people like me brokering barter transactions and helping people save cash and get new customers.
Yeah, I thought it's funny. I thought it would have stood for International Trade Exchange, but
Yeah,
That kind
could
of
have been considered, maybe when it first, ITEX was started in 1980, early 80, 82. So, and it was a publicly traded company. And,
yeah,
so does have a long history as
yeah.
the premier trade exchange. So, but yeah, it's based, the corporate headquarters are in Bellevue, Washington.
Ah,
That's where the
okay.
headquarters are.
And if people wanted to get a hold of you, if they were interested in more, learning more for their business on iTech's potential this barter, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can email me at john.jussen1@itex.net. That's JUSSEN, the number one at itex.net. They can email me, or they could go, you can always call me, you can call ITEX. It's 425-463-4000. And you can tell them John sent you. If you wanted to set up an account, you could do it that way, or you can go to itex.com and join online, and you can put the promo code 408 and then I would be able to contact you when you fill
Okay.
out that application online. You could just, don't forget to put the form, the promo code.
Okay. And we're gonna have to go to a break for a minute here. Now it's itex.com, but yours is itex.net for your email.
Okay, the net is my email,
Okay. Yeah, I
and
was just
and
kind of wondering because
.com is
one's
the
.com
website.
and one's .net.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Audience, stay with us. We'll be back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, John Jussen of iTex. John, how much business can an owner expect using iTex?
So obviously, it's the marketplace. There's supply and demand. Dentists seem to get a lot of business. Attorneys do really well.
Yeah.
So it just depends on auto mechanic. Everybody needs auto mechanics. So it just depends on what profession. But generally, it's easier to get a iTex dollar than a regular transaction. So they should expect some business. And
Yeah.
it could be anywhere between 5,000, 10,000 a year to 100,000. When I had my restaurant, I did over $100,000 a year in barter transactions.
Wow.
And so what we do is we help facilitate the spending of those dollars on the items and products and services that your business needs.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I
you're
remember.
not forced to take any, you're not forced to take any business that you don't want to do. It's your business. So we can
Good point.
turn off and the spigot if you don't want more customers or you want to be put on hold. It could be a massage therapist that's leaving the country to Europe. She's not going to be able to trade if she's out of the country, right? So we
Yeah.
work closely with the business owner to figure out how much business they want. And so,
Gotcha.
obviously, if we're not able to provide it for them, then it might not be a great fit, right? It just depends on what services and products you're providing.
Yeah. And you still set the price because it's your business. Decide,
Right.
what do you
You
charge?
charge your normal price. You don't have to discount it, right? So that's we're not like Groupon where you come in and say, you know what, you have to give a 75% discount. You charge your normal fair market price and you treat it as a normal sale. And when you do that, you're able to generate, let's say, more cash business because the neighbors, in that house cleaning example,
Yeah.
would ask me, well, how much are you being charged? And say, okay, well, the normal market rate, right? But it's
Yeah.
not necessarily a discounted rate.
Gotcha. And then sometimes what happens is people might excuse me, let's say I'm an attorney and there are a lot of people who need my services and I'll just build up my barter dollars. And then eventually I just hold on to them and
Yeah,
eventually need them for something. I guess you can probably give them away as gifts too, can't you?
you can give them away as gift. I did that for my restaurant. I was able to thank my customers, my loyal customers with sending their families to, let's say, amusement park. I had ride tickets and thank them for being customers. And so thank you gifts are really, really good. Maybe a trip to Napa at a hotel and spa, certificate.
Can you give like a generic barter certificate to use in the system?
The other person has to be a member. So it would be ideally be certificates from the barter company that the broker would get, for maybe a salon studio or
Something specific.
So
Gotcha.
what I'll do is maybe buy, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of certificates right off the bat, depending if it's a spa or whatever, because I know that there would be demand. And then I would provide those certificates to my ITEX members that I'm responsible for, and then they can give them to their family or friends. And so the spa gets new customers that they wouldn't have normally gotten.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's a good way to get the expansion of that. Well, John, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We'll definitely have to have you on again to explain more about how barter is working. We're going to here's our thoughts for the day. So I gave up my seat to an elderly person on the bus, and that's how I lost my job as a bus driver. And our computers went down at work today, so we had to do everything manually. It took me 20 minutes to shuffle the cards for solitaire. All right, tune in next week too. We always like to add a little levity here on the show. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We'll be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.